You can imagine Durante is Durante.
Did you ever have the feeling that you wanted to go? Still had the feeling that you wanted to stay? Go, stay.
Uh-oh.
What's the matter, Frosty?
Whew. Is there a thermometer around here?
Over there in the wall.
Frosty the Snowman looks like a harmless Christmas classic, but behind that happy snowman is a pile of strange secrets most people never hear about. A hidden version that vanished for decades. Voices that were quietly replaced. A scene so dark grown-ups still remember it. And animation mistakes that completely change how you see Frosty. Today we're going to revisit Frosty the Snowman 1969 30 Strangest Things You Have Never Heard Of. But the biggest shock of all is why Frosty was created in the first place. A truth most fans never saw coming. And before anything else, let me tell you, Frosty was actually a copy of someone.
Ooh, the village?
Fact 1, Frosty was made to copy Rudolph.
Let's see if it'll make Frosty alive again.
Happy birthday!
Here's something almost nobody knows. Frosty wasn't created from a sweet Christmas idea. He was created because Rudolph made so much money that the writers wanted another hit as fast as possible. Yes, Frosty started as a business decision, not a magical story. Even the tune sounds like an older 1930s song, almost like the writers borrowed the rhythm to make it catchier. Kids never realize this, but adults today can hear the copy and paste feeling. What seems like a happy winter character was actually built to follow Rudolph's cash trail. Frosty didn't appear because of Christmas magic, he appeared because someone wanted another holiday jackpot. And this isn't the only Frosty story that flips everything you thought you knew. The next one is even stranger. Fact 2, Frosty had a secret. 1954 cartoon.
I am alive! What a neat thing to happen to a nice guy like me.
Everyone thinks Frosty's first time on TV was in 1969. Wrong. Frosty had a whole cartoon life 15 years earlier in 1954 and almost nobody remembers it. It was a tiny black and white short shown only on Chicago TV. It was so simple, it almost looked like a moving coloring book page. Kids in Chicago grew up seeing that Frosty every year, thinking it was the real deal. Meanwhile, the rest of America had no idea it even existed. So when the 1969 special came out, Chicago kids were watching their second Frosty while everyone else thought it was brand new. Frosty had a whole secret past long before he became famous. And speaking of secrets, the voice behind Frosty might shock you even more. Fact 3, Frosty's voice came from an adult comedian.
The only place I'd never melt is the North Pole.
Then we've got to get you there.
Frosty sounds like the safest, sweetest snowman ever. But the man behind that voice? A comedian for adults, not kids. Jackie Vernon was known for slow, dry, grown-up stand-up comedy with jokes that would never appear in a Christmas special. Nothing in his career screamed perfect voice for a children's snowman. Yet somehow, the moment he said happy birthday, he became the heart of the entire special. Most viewers would never guess that Frosty's gentle voice came from a nightclub comic who usually performed for adults late at night. The contrast is wild, almost like choosing a rock singer to voice a teddy bear. But the next voice in Frosty has an even bigger twist, because it was the final performance of a legend. Fact 4, Frosty's narrator was giving his final performance.
Hocus, I've got to get Karen all warmed up, or she's a goner.
Jimmy Durante's voice gives Frosty that warm, old-fashioned feeling we all love. But here's the shocking part. Frosty was the final major role of his entire 50-year career. He was already sick while recording it. After a lifetime in movies, radio, and TV, this little Christmas special became the last time the world ever heard him in a starring role. That means when he sings Frosty the Snowman, he's giving his final performance, his last gift to families everywhere. It adds a whole new emotional layer once you know the truth. Frosty isn't just a cute cartoon, it carries the final voice of a Hollywood giant. And the artwork behind Frosty has its own secret that changes how you see every frame. Fact 5, Frosty was designed like a Christmas card.
I said my first words. But snowmen can't talk.
If Frosty looks like he stepped out of a cozy Christmas card, that's because he did. Rankin Bass hired Paul Coker Jr., a real greeting card artist, to design the entire special. They didn't want it to look like a normal cartoon, they wanted it to look like the kind of holiday card families mailed to each other. That's why the colors feel soft, the characters look round and gentle, and the backgrounds look like watercolor winter scenes. You weren't imagining it. Frosty was designed to feel like something you could hang on your fridge. But here's the wildest part. Even though Frosty feels so American, the special wasn't actually animated in America at all. And the place it was made will blow your mind. Fact 6. Frosty was animated in Japan by...
Give me that hat!
Get on my shoulders, Karen.
Most people think Frosty was made in America because it feels so classic and old school. But here's the twist. Almost the entire special was animated in Japan by the same studio behind Astro Boy and Kimba the White Lion. That studio was run by Osamu Tezuka, known as the God of Anime. His team did the hard work, drawing every frame, even though Christmas wasn't a big holiday in Japan at the time. So the snow, the towns, even Frosty's smile were created by artists halfway across the world. It's crazy to think a giant piece of American Christmas nostalgia was built by anime pioneers. And one of those animators became a huge name later, but Frosty never gave him credit. Fact 7. An anime icon worked on Frosty uncredited.
You want a ticket, wise guy?
I'd love one. To the North Pole, please.
Another shocking twist. A future anime superstar helped make Frosty, but his name never appeared anywhere in the credits. Osamu Dezaki, who later directed Black Jack, Space Cobra, and even parts of Rose of Versailles, worked on the special behind the scenes. Back then, American TV didn't always list Japanese creatives, so Dezaki's work stayed hidden for years. Fans only discovered it much later by digging through old studio records. Imagine watching Frosty your whole life without knowing an anime legend helped shape it. His style, smooth shots, strong poses shows up if you look closely at Frosty's more dramatic scenes. And speaking of things hidden in the special, wait until you hear what happened when Frosty first aired on TV. Fact 8 Frosty beat every TV show the week it aired.
I'll be back on Christmas Day.
When Frosty first aired on December 7th, 1969, nobody knew if it would work. It came on right after A Charlie Brown Christmas, which was already a huge holiday tradition. But Frosty didn't just do well, it crushed every single show on television that week. It pulled in giant ratings and became the #1 program in America. Parents loved it. Kids loved it. CBS realized they had a brand new holiday powerhouse. Most Christmas specials fade after a few years, but Frosty came out swinging like a blockbuster movie. And because of that crazy success, CBS held on to Frosty for over 50 years until something shocking happened in recent years. Fact 9. Frosty stayed on CBS for 55 years, then vanished. For more than half a century, Frosty lived on CBS. Year after year, same channel, same season, same tradition. Some families even used its air date as the official start of Christmas. But in 2024, something surprising happened. Frosty was suddenly moved to NBC. After 55 years on one network, the rights shifted almost overnight. Fans were confused, some were angry, and many didn't even know where to find it. It was like the Christmas schedule got flipped upside down. Frosty leaving CBS after so long is one of the strangest modern twists in its history. And speaking of rare versions, there's an even more mysterious Frosty most people have never heard. Fact 10. A lost audio movie version of Frosty exists.
Frosty the Snowman was a jolly happy soul.
Here's something almost nobody realizes. Frosty isn't just a TV special. There's a full audio-only version that turns the entire cartoon into something you can listen to, like a radio drama. In 2002, Rhino released the complete soundtrack on CD, including every line, every scene, and even parts that don't air on TV anymore. It's basically a secret Frosty movie for your ears. Fans were shocked because it includes original voices and moments that got changed or trimmed in later broadcasts. If you ever wanted to hear Frosty without watching it, this rare audio version is the only way. And it leads to an even stranger discovery because the original kid voices in Frosty didn't stay the same. Fact 11. Frosty's first TV version had different kid voices.
When they placed it on his head, he began to dance around. Oh, Frosty.
Here's something almost no one from the 1970s realized. The very first Frosty broadcast in 1969 had different voices for the kids, especially Karen. In that original airing, legendary voice actress June Foray, the same woman who voiced Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle, played Karen and several other characters. But by the early 1970s re-airings, many of those voices were quietly replaced with new actors. Karen suddenly sounded different. The classroom scene changed slightly, and most viewers didn't even notice. What's strange is that June Foray's name stayed in the credits for years, even though her voice wasn't used anymore. It's like the cartoon kept a ghost credit. And the mystery behind Karen's new voice gets even stranger. Fact 12. Karen's replacement voice actress stayed a mystery for 50 years.
You've got to excuse him, sir. You see, he just came to life.
After June Foray's version of Karen disappeared from TV, fans noticed Karen's voice sounded completely different, but nobody knew who the new voice actress was. For decades, her name was missing from credits, interviews, and studio notes. Fans asked questions, but the answer stayed locked away like a Christmas secret. It wasn't until around 2017, almost 50 years later, that people finally confirmed the new Karen was voiced by actress Suzanne Davidson. Imagine that. One of the most iconic Christmas characters ever had a mystery voice for half a century. And the wild part? The only place to hear the original 1969 Karen is a rare version almost nobody owns. And that brings us to the next strange Frosty twist. Fact 13. The original voices survived, only on old records.
Not the President of the United States? Oh, they were both swell ideas.
For years, if you wanted to hear Frosty exactly how it sounded in 1969 with June Foray's original Kid Voices TV, couldn't help you. CBS kept showing the updated version, so the old audio basically vanished from broadcasts. The only place the original sound survived was on vinyl soundtrack records and a later CD release. Fans who grew up with the first airing were shocked when they heard the LP version years later and realized how different Karen originally sounded. It felt like uncovering a hidden childhood memory. These rare audio releases became treasure pieces for Frosty collectors. And what fans did with those recordings is one of the strangest Frosty stories ever. Fact 14. Fans rebuilt. The 1969 Frosty using home recordings.
Oh, you tricked me! No fair!
Because the original 1969 TV version no longer aired anywhere, fans took matters into their own hands. People who had old tape recorders in the 60s and 70s had secretly taped Frosty off the TV, commercials and all. Decades later, collectors gathered these scratchy recordings from basements, closets, and dusty boxes and used them to rebuild the entire first broadcast. They synced the audio with the visuals and recreated Frosty exactly as it played on TV in 1969. It's one of the most unusual fan restoration projects ever attempted for a Christmas cartoon. But not every version of Frosty is longer. In fact, one rare airing did something shocking the opposite way. Fact 15. A 2002 broadcast cut out part of the story.
I can't lose that hat up. It's really got magic now. It'll make me a millionaire magician.
Most people assume every Frosty airing is the same, but in 2002, something bizarre happened. A Canadian network aired a shortened version of Frosty that actually removed part of the "he led them down the streets of town" sequence. Viewers noticed scenes missing, transitions jumping too fast, and parts of the chase simply gone. No one understood why it wasn't time pressure, and nothing in the cutscene was unsafe for kids. It was just chopped out. Fans who watched both versions side by side were stunned that a classic Christmas special could get trimmed without warning. But believe it or not, tiny edits didn't stop there. Even modern Frosty airings still make sneaky changes. Fact 16. Modern Frosty airings still secretly edit out lines.
A refrigerated boxcar on a train headed north. You'll be safe there, Frosty. Come on.
Most people think Frosty airs the exact same way every year, but even recent broadcasts have tiny edits that fans catch instantly. In some NBC showings, dialogue from the kid naming scene is trimmed or shortened. It's only a few seconds, but it changes the rhythm. These edits usually happen to save time for more commercials, but sometimes the reason isn't clear at all. Viewers compare recordings and find little pieces missing, almost like Frosty is being quietly shaved down year by year. It's weird to think a 1969 cartoon keeps changing in 2024. But the strangest edits aren't about sound. They're the mistakes hidden inside the animation itself. And once you spot them, you can't unsee them. Fact 17. Frosty's hands randomly grow extra fingers.
I can count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 6.
Kids never notice this, but adults who freeze frame Frosty often spot something wild. Frosty suddenly grows 5 fingers in one shot, then snaps back to 4 in the next. Snowmen don't even have fingers at all, so seeing a whole hand pop out looks pretty shocking. This weird mistake happens when Frosty is trying to count, and the animators accidentally drew him with a full human hand for a split second. It's one of those blink and you miss it moments that fans love pointing out today. The mistake only lasts a moment, but once you know it's there, it jumps out every time. And Frosty's magic fingers aren't the only scene where reality breaks. The next moment is even stranger. Fact 18. The train scene breaks physics in every direction.
So when the little freight train stopped to let an express full of happy Christmas travelers pass.
During the train chase, Frosty and Karen hop onto a freight train to escape the magician. But if you watch closely, the scene breaks its own logic again and again. When the magician chases them, the train looks slow and close by, yet in the very next shot, it's suddenly far away and moving much faster. The angled jumps make it look like the train teleports down the tracks. The narrator even says it stopped for another train to pass, but the animation doesn't match at all. Nothing lines up, and the whole thing feels like a scrambled puzzle. It's one of Frosty's most obvious continuity slip-ups. And speaking of strange repeats, one animation mistake makes it look like the kids can clone themselves. Fact 19. A kid accidentally jumps over Frosty twice. During the playful follow the leader scene, the kids hop over Frosty one by one. It looks cute until you slow it down. One child, wearing the exact same hair and clothes, jumps over Frosty, then jumps over him again in the very next shot. It's like the kid was copy-pasted by the animators to fill space. Because animation was expensive, studios reused drawings all the time. But here it sticks out because the identical kid appears back to back, making it look like he ran behind Frosty at lightning speed and rushed back into line. It's a simple mistake, but once you see it, you can't stop noticing it. And the next continuity error might be the strangest one in the entire special. Fact 20. The narrator's train. Explanation makes no sense at all.
Where is that rabbit? Can.
There's a moment where the narrator says the freight train carrying Frosty and Karen must stop so a busy express train full of Christmas travelers can pass. Sounds normal until you look at the animation. The freight train is already off to the side, nowhere near the crossing, and the express isn't even aimed at them. Nothing about the visual matches the narration. It's almost like 2 different scenes were stitched together without checking if they matched. The whole explanation becomes confusing once you actually watch the tracks. It's one of those Frosty moments adults notice immediately while kids don't question a thing. And the next fact takes Frosty's behavior from confusing to something people jokingly call criminal. Fact 21. Some critics say Frosty acts like a tiny criminal.
Happy birthday! Go, go, go!
This one will make you laugh. A few writers have pointed out that Frosty doesn't exactly follow the law. He blows past a traffic cop, leads a group of kids straight through a busy street, ignores instructions, and then runs away smiling. One critic even joked that Frosty behaves like a minor criminal in a winter fairy tale. Of course, kids think it's just funny cartoon chaos, but adults watching today notice how wild the scene really is. Frosty isn't mean, he's just clueless about rules, which makes his actions look pretty reckless when you pause and think about it. And speaking of things that shocked viewers, the next Frosty moment is one that scared a lot of kids for life. Fact 22. The greenhouse melting scene traumatized the generation.
Santa followed Frosty's pad in the snow to the greenhouse.
Ask adults what moment from Frosty they remember most, and many won't say the train, the hat, or even Santa. They'll say the melting scene. Seeing Frosty turn into a puddle while Karen cries was one of the most heartbreaking moments in any Christmas special. For lots of kids, this was their first experience watching a main character die, and it hit hard. Parents wrote articles years later saying the scene left them frozen in fear as kids. Even today, people say it's one of the saddest holiday cartoon moments ever made. It's shocking how dark the scene feels compared to the rest of the special. But the truth is, this emotional hit wasn't even in the original song, which leads to the next twist. Fact 23. The Frosty song had almost no story.
Frosty the Snowman was alive as he could be.
Everything you remember from the special, the magician, Karen, the train chase, the animals, even the melting, none of that came from the original song. The 1950 Frosty song is only 2 minutes long and barely has a plot. So writer Romeo Muller had to stretch a tiny story into a full TV adventure. He created new characters, added danger, built a villain, and even invented Frosty's big emotional ending. Almost all the moments fans love were made up just for the special. Frosty went from a simple song character to a full fairy tale hero because one writer needed to fill 30 minutes. And what he used for inspiration next might be the biggest hometown surprise of all. Fact 24, Frosty has a real-life hometown in New York.
Why don't we sing it? Frosty the Snowman.
Most people think Frosty comes from a magical snowy village, but the truth is much more real. The songwriter Steve Nelson based the village square and the lyrics on his own town, Armonk, New York. Even the traffic cop in the song came from a real police chief, Nelson knew. Today, Armonk fully embraces this history. They throw an annual Frosty Day parade, decorate the streets with snowmen, and celebrate Frosty as their hometown hero. Imagine a small, quiet town suddenly becoming Frosty's official birthplace. It's one of the coolest bits of Christmas trivia most fans never hear about. But Frosty's legacy didn't stop there. The next fact shows how big his story became far beyond one special. Fact 25. Armonk built a festival around Frosty.
Frosty the Snowman and Chief Robert D'Angelo, representing Chief John Hergenham.
What started as a simple song reference has taken over an entire town. Armonk, New York doesn't just claim Frosty, they celebrate him on a massive scale every year. The Frosty Day Parade brings families, costumes, music, and dozens of snowman decorations all over Main Street. Kids march behind a giant Frosty mascot, stores put up themed displays, and the whole town turns into a snowy party. It's become one of the biggest holiday events in the area, even listed as a top attraction in Westchester County. It's amazing how a 2-minute song inspired a full town tradition. But Frosty didn't only get local love, his sequels took him in some very unexpected directions, and one of them is absolutely wild. Fact 26, Frosty's first sequel dropped Christmas completely.
Are you coming to the North Pole too?
I'm sure my mother won't mind.
Everyone expects a Frosty sequel to be full of Christmas magic, but the very first follow-up, Frosty's Winter Wonderland 1976, doesn't mention Christmas at all. Instead, Frosty tries to survive winter by building himself a snow wife named Crystal. Andy Griffith narrates it, the magician is gone, and the whole tone feels totally different from the original. Instead of Santa saving the day, Jack Frost shows up jealous because Frosty is stealing his winter fame. It's almost like someone took Frosty and dropped him into a whole new story universe. Many fans didn't even realize the sequel existed because it aired less often. But Frosty's next big adventure got even stranger because the third special takes him out of winter completely. Fact 27, Frosty becomes an eco-hero in a summer adventure.
You wouldn't be sneezing if you weren't cold.
Just a little.
Frosty realized that Karen had to get out of that car as soon as possible.
In Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July 1979, Frosty ends up in a summer movie. Yes, summer! The story mixes Rudolph, Frosty, fireworks, a circus, a magical amulet, and a villain named Winterbolt who can literally wipe out snow forever. Frosty and his family start melting, Rudolph teams up with him, and the whole plot feels like the Marvel version of Rankin Bass. It's a huge jump from the calm, cozy 1969 special. But the wildest part is how environmental it gets. The villain's plan is to destroy all winter conditions, making Frosty a kind of eco-hero fighting climate chaos. It's one of the most unexpected turns in any Christmas series, and Frosty's strangest twist didn't even happen in the originals. It came decades later. Fact 28, a later movie, revealed a wild family secret.
A snow to make the happy happier and the giddy even giddier.
In The Legend of Frosty the Snowman 2005, they completely rewrote Frosty's world and added a huge twist. Professor Hinkle, the goofy magician from the original, is revealed to be the grandfather of the film's narrator. That means the bumbling villain from 1969 somehow becomes a wiser, kinder family elder in the future. The cartoon treats the original story like a tale passed down through generations, making Frosty more of a magical legend than a literal snowman. This twist surprised longtime fans because it changes how you see the old characters, especially Hinkle. It's rare for a Christmas special from the 60s to suddenly get a giant lore update decades later. But Frosty's legacy didn't just grow, it also confused critics when it first aired. Fact 29, critics didn't think Frosty was great at first.
The hat did belong to Frosty and the children. That point must be made very clear.
Today, Frosty feels like a perfect Christmas classic. But when critics first reviewed it in 1969 and 1970, they weren't impressed. One survey even rated it only fair, calling it simple, safe, and not as emotional as Rudolph or Charlie Brown. Critics thought it wouldn't last very long on TV. They believed the story was too basic and that the animation was serviceable but not special. But audiences disagreed. Kids loved it, parents tuned in, and reruns made it a seasonal powerhouse. It's funny how something judged as average became a tradition lasting more than half a century. And soon, those same critics would have to admit something they didn't expect because Frosty earned a crown they never saw coming. Fact 30, Frosty became one of TV's top holiday specials ever.
But you can't take that hat back. It brought Frosty to life.
You saw it happen.
Even though the early reviews were lukewarm, Frosty slowly climbed to the top of the Christmas ladder. Over the years, it beat dozens of newer holiday specials and became one of the most watched Christmas programs on TV. TV Guide eventually named it one of the top 10 holiday specials of all time. Families passed it down from generation to generation, and Frosty became more than a cartoon, he became a yearly tradition. And the wild part? A character that started as a Rudolph copy ended up becoming one of the most beloved Christmas icons ever. It's the perfect ending to a story filled with surprises. And just wait until viewers learn the secrets hiding in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer next. Bonus fact, the same narrator, who introduced Frosty, also recorded the song in 1950. The narrator of Frosty the Snowman, 1969, Jimmy Durante, had already recorded a version of the Frosty the Snowman song back in 1950. So when he narrated the special nearly 20 years later, he wasn't just reading a story, he was returning to a song he once sang, giving the snowman's tale a full circle moment that almost nobody notices.